Hello, everyone. Now, as you know, Michael Jordan fans are the worst sports fans of all time. And one of the many reasons why is because these people really believe that when Michael Jordan was in the NBA, he was the number one NBA player in the NBA. Usually, they say he was the number one NBA player every year he was in the NBA. Or they say he was the number one NBA player for most of the years he was in the NBA. Now, I am going to explain to you why this is ridiculous. Here are the reasons why, in no particular order. First, they are disrespecting all of the other NBA people. Next, they are dismissing all of the other NBA people. Next, when they claim to respect the game and then they disrespect the game, they are contradicting themselves. Next, when they claim to love the game and then they dismiss the game, they are contradicting themselves. Next, Michael Jordan fans have a history of always trying to find a way to make Michael Jordan the number one NBA player of all time. So that right there shows you that they're not reliable. Next, understand why Michael Jordan fans are saying this. It's because they're just trying to find a way to make Michael Jordan the number one NBA player of all time. So that right there shows you that they're not reliable. Next, how do Michael Jordan fans explain that lots of the players that Michael Jordan played with don't agree with them? Next, how do Michael Jordan fans explain that lots of the players that Michael Jordan played against don't agree with them? Next, how do Michael Jordan fans explain that lots of the owners, general managers, coaches, and other NBA people that Michael Jordan played for don't agree with them? Next, how do Michael Jordan fans explain that lots of NBA Hall of Famers, lots of NBA legends, lots of NBA scouts, and lots of NBA experts don't agree with them? Next, how do Michael Jordan fans explain that Michael Jordan doesn't agree with them? Next, since lots of these people don't agree with them, why do Michael Jordan fans sometimes reference one or more of these people for one or more topics? Next, how do Michael Jordan fans explain that usually the only people who think this are Michael Jordan fans? Next, if this was the other way around and they were an NBA Hall of Famer or some other NBA person and they found out that there was a younger NBA fan who wasn't there when they played, who doesn't have that much tape of them, who isn't an expert on the past NBA and so on, and they found out that this younger NBA fan said this thing, they wouldn't agree with that fan. Next, if some non-Michael Jordan fan said this thing and it went against Michael Jordan, the Michael Jordan fans wouldn't agree with that non-Michael Jordan fan. Next, Michael Jordan fans have a contradiction. They always ask people who disagree with them if they were there when Michael Jordan played, if they went to his games, if they saw his games live on TV, and so on. And yet, they don't ask themselves these same type of questions when it comes to lots of other NBA Hall of Famers. If they did, they would know that it would go against them, and they wouldn't come to this kind of conclusion. Next, how come Michael Jordan fans don't say this kind of thing for some other NBA players? Next, how come Michael Jordan fans don't say this kind of thing for some other players who played other sports? Next, how come Michael Jordan fans don't say this kind of thing for some other people and some other things when it comes to other things outside of sports? Next, how come Michael Jordan fans don't say this when it comes to who they rank as the number 2 NBA player of all time and the number 3 NBA player of all time and the number 4 NBA player of all time and so on? Next, how come Michael Jordan fans don't say this when it comes to who they rank as the number 1 player and the number 2 player and the number 3 player and so on when it comes to other sports? Next, how come Michael Jordan fans don't say this when it comes to the number 1 person or the number 1 thing or the number 2 person or the number 2 thing or the number 3 person or the number 3 thing and so on when it comes to other things outside of sports? Next, Michael Jordan fans are putting other NBA players in a lose-lose situation. If they were better than Michael Jordan during any year, or if they were considered the number 1 NBA player in the NBA during any year, Michael Jordan fans dismiss it. If they were not better than Michael Jordan during any year, or if they were not considered the number 1 NBA player in the NBA during any year, Michael Jordan fans hold it against them. Next, how do Michael Jordan fans explain that lots of other people have said one of these things or both of these things about another NBA player or other NBA players? Next, I want you to think about something logical. Is it logical to assume any of these things about Michael Jordan? Next. And even if you say, hey, there was a year that Michael Jordan was the number one NBA player in the NBA. That's 1 year. You can't find 2 years. Next. And even if you say there were 2 years that Michael Jordan was the number one NBA player in the NBA, that's 2 years. You can't find 3 years. Next. And even if you say there were 3 years that Michael Jordan was the number one NBA player in the NBA, that's 3 years. You can't find 4 years. Next. And so on. Next. Winning the MVP doesn't mean you're the best player in the NBA. Next. And if it does, he didn't win an NBA regular season MVP award every year he was in the NBA. Next. And he didn't win an NBA regular season MVP award for most of the years he was in the NBA. Next. When was Michael Jordan the number one NBA player in the NBA? I'd like to know this magical year. Next. Michael Jordan never had the number one NBA statistics when he was in the NBA. Next. Every year in the NBA, there was always at least one NBA player who was a better overall player than Michael Jordan. Next. And every year in the NBA, there was always more than one NBA player who was a better overall NBA player than Michael Jordan. Next. There was no reason to ever pick Michael Jordan as the number one NBA player in the NBA. Next. I mean, when you go by a player's overall game, he was never the best player in the NBA. Next. There is no fact to prove any of these things about Michael Jordan. Hey, please subscribe, and if you disagree with me on something, you can go on my program and show me your facts on whatever you disagree on. If you want to go on, let's set it up. Send me an email. The email is right there in the description section. Thank you.